folks. So this time around, you're supposed to do an assignment based on loops. In the class, we covered for loops, while loops, as well as do while loops. And I did explain that all of these three loops are actually interchangeable, as in you can do one loop in terms of another, as in you can write a for loop in terms of while, and while in terms of do while, and do while in terms of for, or whichever way you really want it to. So this time around, I also explained to you how there are loop interrupts and they can break a loop. There are two loop interrupts mainly, the break and as well as the continue. The continue essentially skips the rest of the loop and takes you to the beginning of the loop again. Whereas break right now jumps out of the closest loop. Like it's not going to jump if you are inside two loops, then it's not going to cross both of them. But the closest loop, it's going to jump out of that. So that's how the break and continue statements work. So without further ado, let's actually look at the assignment for this time. Okay, so this time around, your assignment is essentially going to be based on a simple, sequence. Essentially, you have to check whether a numeric sequence follows a certain pattern or not. So you can use. So first thing is you can use any loop you want. So you can use for, while, do while. Okay, any of these loops you can want. And what you're supposed to do essentially as part of this loop is you're supposed to read four numbers. So let's say your program will actually print something like please enter a sequence of four numbers. Okay, then you are going to enter and then you will say enter number one, and I will enter something like 2. Then you will say enter number 2, and you will enter something like 4, and then you will enter say enter number 3, and that will be 6, and enter number 4, and that is 8. Okay, and at this point of time you can see that in this sequence the numbers 2, 4, 6, and 8, they form a sequence of the type the number 2 is the base number, so this is 2. Number 4 is twice the base, which is 2x2. This one is thrice the base, and this is 4x the base. Okay, so they form a sequence where this is 1 times base, this is 2 times base, this is 3 times base, and this is 4 times base. Okay, so your job is to essentially read a sequence and determine whether the sequence actually is a proper sequence of 1x, 2x, 3x, 4x. Okay, and the challenge is that you have to only read till where the sequence actually makes sense. For example, in this sequence, if when you're reading, so 2, the person first entered 2, well, the base number is the base number. Then they entered 4. 4 is of course twice of the base, so that's fine. And then you have 6, which is again thrice the base, so that's fine. And then 8 is 4 times the base, so that's fine. And you can, if something like this got entered, then you can say, you have to print a statement something like, woohoo, right? Got a sequence. Okay, and you have to exit the loop at this point of time using a loop interrupt. Okay, and if instead, let's say the sequence actually came down as you said the first number was 2, and then the second number was 4, and then for the third number the person entered 5, you cannot continue the loop there anymore, because, or you cannot reading the number anymore, because this doesn't make any sense. The sequence is broken right here because this is not 3x, right? 3 times 2, this is not right. So this is a bad condition. So right here you skip over and go to the beginning of the loop, where you say first you will print something like oops, right? Sequence broken, restarting loop, and then you are going to essentially go back and say please enter sequence. Okay, so essentially if you cannot be reading all 4 numbers all the time. You have to essentially make a decision at every single point of time whether it makes sense to go forward or it doesn't make sense to go forward. And of course you are going to use another loop interrupt for that. So that's the simple assignment. Essentially, read a sequence and make sure that the sequence actually is the sequence of 1x, 2x, 3x, 4x. And if it is not, then as soon as you determine that the sequence is not valid, immediately basically jump out and go back to the beginning of the loop. So that's it. Good luck, and I will see you back at the class.